he releases Indian content in China. Okay, give a big round of applause for him, please. Okay. He was giving me some fantastic statistics earlier this day. That since 1955, 900 Indian films have released in China, about a third in theaters and about 2/3, on television, on satellite. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to ask you, because there's a lot of content people in this room, Pablo, what's the process? How does one get to be one of those 300 films that releases in China?
Okay, no problem. Thank you and for inviting me here. And namaste.
Namaste.
It's so honored to be here, and we sitting here together with you guys and talking about the China and India cultural exchange, and the film and television are most important for the cultural exchange. So I think in my knowledge, that is from 1991 up to now, already more than 600 to 900 films are officially released in China. And some are television, TV, or internet, and some are theoretically. So in the great year, I think that in 2018 up to 2019, those 2 years, more than 60 India films released theatrically. So we count some amounts. There are around three are released in China theatrically. So that means
that's 3 releases every month.
Yeah,
that's a huge number.
3 the amounts. So at the box office, it's very big, getting so super box office. And for the procedure to the releasing India film or other foreigner films, we have our regulations. Somehow, like we have to submit the film to. There are 2 distribution companies which are government-owned. One is Huaxia distribution company. Another one is China Film Group Distribution Company. Those 2 companies have the right to distribute officially in China. Others company has to be assistance, a role in this kind of distribution.
So 2 government companies,
yes,
government-owned companies who have the rights to distribute Indian films.
Is
there a quota? Is there a quota that only so many films can release?
Actually, the things like this, there's no quota at all.
No quota?
There's no quota at all. Means to say there's no number limited. But the film administration will make a balance. Before, the data shows, the box office data shows, the foreigner film box office taking more than half of the box office the total years. But recent years, the domestic films are getting bigger. They are making some like 70%. 30 are foreigners.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that's a good sign. So then that is a big opportunity, and I think after the session it would be great for a lot of you people to catch up with Pablo and discuss this. Because we produced last year 1,623 films. I'm sure we'd like to have a lot more releases.
That's why I come to India. And I have been in India, I think, more than 5 times. And I was in India 3 years ago. I locked down there in Delhi, and I enjoy life.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Shudh, your point of view. And I'm going to ask this to you because you've been in this business too damn long. Okay? You've been producing you have a bizarre hit rate. I don't know how you do it, right? You produce the best content. But do you see India genuinely creating that content that will resonate across the globe? Or do you think we still have some time to go before we get there?
No, no, for sure. I think we will. We've started making, baby steps have been there for a long time, right? From Satyajit Ray time, going international. But I think and RRR success, reaching the Oscars and Bahubali before that, and in China, we distributed Secret Superstar, and before that, Amir went with Dangal. So, we're already making a mark across the world. I think, yeah, I think RRR was our Crouching Tiger moment for Hollywood, but it was a streaming success as opposed to a theatrical buzz that Crouching Tiger created some 20, 25 years ago. But I think we're getting there. I think with the way the filmmakers are scaling their productions, and I think the vision is there. I think it's just a question of all of us having the guts to back that content. I mean, in South, they do it very well. And, the way Ashish has spent some time over there now, and we're also producing in South, there's a different risk-taking ability that they have. For them, interest cost is just part of it. I mean, they can, they don't blink at 2-3% interest. And, it's just factored in. Whereas all of us, especially in the corporate world, we're like, cost of money is even at 12%, we get questioned. It's impacting our bottom line, and so when I'm presenting to the board, it's always EBITDA, but remove interest cost because it took longer to complete this movie and things like that. So we find all these loopholes, but the individual producers are down south are they're all they're getting partly corporatized or whatever, but they just have they just have the guts to go and do that. So I think it is happening, and we have great makers who can give us films that can travel at a global scale, at a large scale. I mean, just to plug our own, we have managed to, in this year itself, taken 3 films to 2 film festivals, to 3 different film festivals, including we are taking Anurag Kashyap's Kennedy to Cannes as the only selection, which is there. So at a mid-size, smaller scale, niche festival films, we've been doing it for a while. The point is, how do you scale up and bust the global box office is the big challenge, and I think we're all there, and I'll be the first one to catch him for China. I've got a Rani Mukherjee film which released 2 months ago. And she's a big success in China. Let's sign a deal right now.
Yeah, of course, sure. Actually, like I mentioned before, there are more than 100 films distributed in China, India right now. But the core product is not too much. Only few, 5. So
why is that?
I think we have to work together. That's why I come to India many times. Before the pandemic, we have signed a contract with some India partner there. We are doing a film like we call it Beautiful Dreams. So we are on processing, but right now we are going to resume this kind of project. And what I'm thinking that the most important thing that is we have to focus on the content, the stories, which are India audience, Chinese audience are interesting. So because we are populations 1/3 of the world, so we have the voice together. No?
That's a very interesting point. That is so interesting. We are 1/3 of the world together, right? And that is something that we definitely can and must go after as a market together. That's a fantastic point, Pablo.
Thank you.
Sharik, I want to take you up on a small few words you said about corporate and non-corporate in the film world, right? And I'm asking you, the guys in the South, you said they're gutsy, they're willing to back their films, and they're largely person-driven organizations, large production houses, but not very corporate in that sense, right? How the hell do you scale? If this industry is going to be 1,000 individually owned production houses, what's the scale mantra? Where's the model?
But that's true world over. The production houses will always, because they are driven by the vision or the guts of a particular individual. Whether it's Adi Chopra for Yash Raj, or it's Karan Johar for Dharma, or, Farhan and Ritesh for Excel. It's, there's only so much bandwidth you can give to create and craft something. Writing is tough. Putting together projects is tough. You know, getting the actors, directors, it takes years. You know, development is a tough, long battle. I'm sure there are writers here, there are producers here. It's a very tough thing. And they themselves struggle to put together 4 films or 4 scripts that they think that, hey, you know, this is what we should back. So the production houses world over, it's always, you know, there are multiple production houses. It's the job of studios, you know, all of us who are sitting over here to power these production houses, let them do their creative bit of it and take care of the business end of it.
But you said that the studios, being corporate, have less guts than the production houses. How is this going to work out? Even a studio, what's the biggest scale you do? You do 30, 40 films a year?
Yes, we're doing 30, 40, and yeah, it's tough because there's also limited cash flows for us also.
There's a limited cash flow issue.
Yeah,
right.
but the point is that's why we need more studios. So how do you get more? But the way this, actually now you've got Amazon and Netflix are effectively studios, right? So you've got, you know, in India you'll have 3, 4, you know, studios
and
as
Jio's
such. And then
announcement as
Jio's
well.
announcement. So including Jio, say there are 3, 4 corporate broadcaster-led studios, and you got 2 streaming-led who are funding a lot of projects directly with the producers, you know, and things like that. So I think we need more of that. But I think if the streaming services start, you know, collapsing and the broadcasting is also collapsing into 3, 4, it'll always, you know, the pyramid is getting, you know, smaller and tighter at the top. But I think what really, I mean, India and China, we're a theatrical country. Unfortunately, what we've done is in this race to create multiplexes, we've just killed the smaller theaters in, you know, B towns, C towns.
Should we be producing different content for
Absolutely.
single screens to grow?
Absolutely. We have to. I mean, you know, you talked about, we started the question about what is the, you know, it's 90 lakhs or 1 crore per episode. You know, you got to have every platform, every film, you know, there are different scales, right? For every RRR or for every Taj or Farzi or Jubilee, which are like, you know, big scale productions, which become the chatter and hopefully, you know, they deliver the numbers. You need to have that mid-size, you need to have I mean, AVOD is coming back big, right? I mean, Amazon has bought over MX Player predominantly for the, Netflix has started advertising models. So, you know, there's got to be content at all level, and I think we tend to, too much of time, effort, energy is devoted to those 10% marquee projects, right? Trust me, majority of them are loss leaders for whether it's the studio or the platforms. The real money comes from the mid-size, that's where the revenue comes in. It's the Kashmir Files, it's the Gullaks, it's the Panchayats, which the ROI is there. The ROI is on Mukbir, the ROI is, you know, is much lower on the bigger, you know, 70, 80 crore money-wise. But you still need that because of the chatter, because of, you know, how do you position yourself as, hey, you know, we do these big scale, you know, productions, and that's where if you see the portfolio of all the platforms or all the studios, anyone you have to defray it, hope that the big ones don't bomb, because that really, you know, that just kills the P&L balance sheet for years to come. I mean, you can, and it's the small ones which give you the ROI. So, you know, that's...
Rohit, he just out-CA'd you. I mean, like completely out-CA'd you on this one. I think there's more than one chartered accountants on this panel.
I'm MBA finance, just, you know, so...
Oh, very cool. Okay, Aradha, coming back to you. How many formats does Fremantle own? 2,000? 3,000?
Yeah, perhaps more, because we're just growing every time, right?
Right.
We've added some 800 scripted titles last year alone.
Don't say
so
stupid.
It's an
Someone said that to you.
ever-evolving number, right?
Okay, so you've really cracked the writing problem at some level. We keep hearing about writing being a big bugbear in this industry, and there's a huge shortage of writers. There's a huge issue in the kind of stories and the way they're getting written. I mean, you hear all this stuff. Is this true about India, that we have a writing problem? And if so, what should we be doing about writing?
You know, I don't think it's so much a writing problem. In my experience, there are lots of people out there who are very talented. I think it's a problem of making the connect. The platforms that connect people who are aspiring writers or have great ideas or whatever to someone who can actually bring them to life, those are a little lesser.
But isn't that you?
So, no, it is us too, but I'm saying that I guess this discussion is more an industry-led discussion, right? What we're doing collectively and how many programs do we have out there. Like in the West, I see so many which are there, you know, they have these little companies that run this as writers, and they bring them together, and then they have these presentations that they do that are marked out in the year in the calendars of the studios and everything, and you get to meet people, see their stuff, they'll send you the writing, they'll do chats, all of these things, and people get discovered there. What that also helps with fresh talent is, of course you pay them, but it doesn't become those prohibitive costs there. And the ideas are also fresher. The perspective is like that. I'm not saying there are too many of those. I really think it's the bridge that is missing. That can be done much more of. And in the pandemic, I have seen a lot of that because we all got some time to invest more in it, right? The business also required that. And I'm very happy to say that right now there are 3 scripted projects that are at different stages of development in our kitty. All 3 are with fresh people.
Oh, that's lovely to hear.
So,
That's fantastic to hear.
Fantastic ideas.
You know, at this conference, I've met at least 3 story platforms over these 3 days, which I'd never heard of, honestly, before. One of them called Booktainment. I had, of course, heard of Pencil and some of the others. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of innovation happening at that level. Are Indian studios going to look at those guys? Is platform the solution there, or is it still going to be a relationship buying? How does this work in the real world?
No, I think for sure, I think these, nothing is better for us if things comes packaged, right? I mean, we are happy to, if someone's doing the hard work and doing the packaging. What I do, anyone who comes to meet me, I'm like, if you're a talent, if you're a writer, director, we are more than happy to give you development funds because, you're working for us and we're this thing. If you're a producer, do the hard work. I mean, you need to invest, you need to pay the writer, pay the director, showrunner, as the case may be, to package that Bible or whatever. So, I mean, for sure, I think we need a lot more of these and they will survive.
Ashish, you've done Netflix, you've done private production. You've seen how this works across pretty much the paradigm of India. What's your take on this? Where is story writing, storytelling? How is it going to evolve?
So the good thing is, over a period of time, stories are coming from everywhere. Anywhere for that matter. And being watched everywhere. So that's the best part about today's times. There are writers who are based in, and you spoke about the story platforms. So there's a Pratilipi and there are so many others where you get millions of stories. You can just go on that platform and there are writers who've put their stuff out sitting in Gorakhpur in UP or maybe somewhere in Tamil Nadu. And as a creative person, you can go and shortlist those stories and pick them out from there. So that definitely
is... You guys actively source stuff from Pratilipi, for example?
I mean, we definitely have a team that looks at it.
Okay.
We may not be able to convert it, but there is a dialogue.
And do you think this model will grow in future, this platformization, this kind of getting it into a format which is easily accessible to you, or not?
So honestly, we all know, we all follow a herd mentality. It's about that first piece of content that is discovered on a platform and becomes successful, and people, once that awareness is even more, it will definitely succeed. Right. Having said that, I mean, we are being pitched stories every day, right? And there's a team that's reading that stuff. At the same time, there's a team that's going on these platforms to look for stuff. Yeah. So it's a mixed bag. There's no straight answer to this. Okay. What is very important also is, to Sharik's point and to Aradhana's point, each OTT platform has a different requirement. That is where the challenge is. And those strategies change very fast. So without naming a platform could initially be looking at very niche, evolved kind of content. But a year later, by the time you've developed that niche content and you go to them, oh, we are looking at wider stuff. We want to reach the heartland. We want to reach the tier 2 cities. So as a content creator, that is where the confusion is. But again, having said that, I think the best is to go with what you personally believe in. And a good story travels anywhere. We know that. It's not about a platform. It's not about the language, whether it's, we've seen the Indian films that have done so well in China. And purely on content, right? There was no language, there was no background, nothing. And those stories also came from different people.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking if we are 1/3 of the world together, we should have a stockpile of stories, right? I mean, we should have 1/3 of the best stories in the world between the two countries. And somehow we don't. And that's really unfortunate.
So, just to contradict you a little, we do have the stories. We are not actually reaching out and, making those stories.
So what's the solve?
Solve is don't ape the West.
Don't ape the West.
We've discussed this in one of our other panels. Don't ape the West. You have your culture. You have such great characters that you can really talk about. And they're all heroes here. Come on. You don't need a superhero from a Marvel,
So I have hope.
We all live on hope. We all live on hope.
Right. Rohit, sorry, you want to say something.
Even if you look at the great breakthroughs, you talk about Crouching Tiger, right? All of those, they were very, very local stories. The big breakthroughs are very specific to that region, right? And that's where it happens. So there is power in that.
So honest storytelling, in effect.
Authentic.
Authentic storytelling. Okay.